That they have basically spent all their time worrying about colleges and universities around the country that are given a little break to young African Americans and Hispanics to make sure that they can go to college, too. I had a school in Southern Illinois that set up a program for PhDs in math and science for African Americans. And the reason they had set it up is because we only had less than 1% of the PhDs in science and math go to African Americans. At a time when we are competing in a global economy, when we're not competing just against folks in North Carolina or Florida or California, we're competing against folks in China and India, and we need math and science majors. This university thought this might be a nice thing to do. And the Justice Department wrote them a letter saying, we are going to threaten to sue you for reverse discrimination unless you cease this program. And it reminds us that we still got a lot of work to do, and that the basic enforcement of anti-discrimination laws, the injustice that still exists within our criminal justice system, the disparity in terms of how people are treated in this country continues. It has gotten better. And we should never deny that it's gotten better. Vocabularies and synonyms. Reverse, N/V, opposite, reversal, turn upside down or backwards. Discrimination, N, bias, partiality, prejudice, antipathy. Disparity, N, difference, discrepancy, distinction, divergence. But we shouldn't forget that better is not good enough. That until we have absolute equality in this country in terms of people being treated on the basis of their color or their gender, that is something that we've got to continue to work on, and the Joshua generation has a significant task in making that happen. Third thing, we've got to recognize that we fought for civil rights, but we've still got a lot of economic rights that have to be dealt with. We've got 46 million people uninsured in this country, despite spending more money on healthcare than any nation on earth. Vocabularies and synonyms. Significant, ADJ, important, critical, consequential, vital. Uninsured, ADJ, not covered by insurance. Recognize, V, identify, acknowledge, admit, perceive. It makes no sense. As a consequence, we've got what's known as a healthcare disparity in this nation because many of the uninsured are African American or Latino. Life expectancy is lower. Almost every disease is higher within minority communities. The healthcare gap. Blacks are less likely in their schools to have adequate funding. We have less qualified teachers in those schools. We have fewer textbooks in those schools. We got in some schools rats outnumbering computers. That's called the achievement gap. Vocabularies and synonyms. Adequate, ADJ, enough, sufficient, commensurate, sufficing. Expectancy, N, anticipation, expectation, prediction, outlook. Outnumber, V, exceed in quantity, exceed, surmount. You've got a healthcare gap and you've got an achievement gap. You've got Katrina still undone. I went down to New Orleans 3 weeks ago. It still looks bombed out. Still not rebuilt. When 9/11 happened, the federal government had a special program of grants to help rebuild. They waived any requirement that Manhattan would have to pay 10% of the cost of rebuilding. When Hurricane Andrew happened in Florida, 10% requirement, they waived it because they understood that some disasters are so devastating that we can't expect a community to rebuild. New Orleans, the largest national catastrophe in our history, the federal government says, where's your 10%? Vocabularies and synonyms. Waive, V, give up, let go, abandon, set aside, defer. Disaster, N, accident, trouble, calamity, hazard, tragedy. Catastrophe, N, calamity, adversity, devastation, fatality.